I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it. Because a toilet is one of those things you live with every single day, and you feel the difference pretty fast when something is slightly off. I have been using the Nexus as the main toilet in my bathroom, and I have enough day-to-day time on it to talk about what is actually good, what is just fine, and what might annoy you depending on your space and habits. At a basic level, this is a one-piece toilet with an elongated bowl and a taller sitting height. So it is aimed at people who want something that feels a little easier to sit down on and stand up from, and people who care about cleaning being straightforward. If you are coming from a two-piece toilet with a separate tank and bowl, the one-piece design is the first thing you notice in real life because it changes how it looks, and it changes how you wipe it down. What makes this one interesting for me is not that it has a bunch of gimmicks, because it does not. It is more about the flushing system and the shape of the bowl and base. It uses a swirling flush that moves water around the bowl instead of just dumping it straight down. In my bathroom, that has meant fewer streaks and fewer times where I have to reach for the brush for something that should have cleared the first time. It is still a toilet. It is not magic, but it is more consistent than the older gravity flush models I have owned. Let me talk about how it looks and feels in the room because that matters. The Nexus has a smooth, modern shape, and since it is one piece, there is no seam between the tank and the bowl. When you are standing next to it, it looks cleaner and more continuous. The finish on mine has been easy to wipe down with a basic bathroom cleaner and a soft cloth. I am not babying it, and it is holding up the way I would expect from vitreous china. Nothing about it feels flimsy. The lid and seat on mine are the soft closing type, and that has been genuinely useful. It closes quietly and it stays aligned, and it has not developed that loose, wobbly feel that cheaper seats can get after a few months. The height is something you should think about before you buy. It sits at about chair height, and for me that is more comfortable than a shorter toilet, especially first thing in the morning or if you are getting up and down a lot. If you are shorter, or if you have kids using the same bathroom, the extra height can be a mixed bag. Adults in my house adjusted immediately. For smaller kids, a step stool makes it easier. Setup is not something most people are excited about, but it is part of the real experience. A one-piece toilet is heavier and more awkward to position than a two-piece, because you are moving one big solid unit. I recommend having a second person nearby when you set it onto the wax ring, just to avoid shifting it and having to reset it. Once it is in place, the rest is normal toilet installation work. Hooking up the water line was straightforward. The part that took the most patience was getting it perfectly centered and level, because with a one-piece design, you really see it if it is even slightly crooked. After it was installed, it has been stable and quiet. No rocking, no creaks, nothing like that. Daily use is where I care the most, and it is where the Nexus has been mostly boring in a good way. The flush handle has a solid feel, and the flush itself is strong without being the kind of explosive flush that makes you think something is wrong with your plumbing. The sound is more of a controlled whoosh than a harsh blast. In a small house, that matters at night. The water use is 1.28 gallons per flush, which is one of those numbers I do not think about day to day, but it does show up in the sense that it is efficient without feeling weak. I have used low-flow toilets before that needed repeat flushes, and that defeats the point. With this one, I rarely flush twice. For real-world testing, I paid attention to the situations that usually expose problems. One is when you have toilet paper plus normal waste, because that is where weaker toilets tend to leave something behind or clog. With the Nexus, it has cleared cleanly for me. Another is when the bowl gets dirty over a few days of normal use. The swirling action seems to rinse the sides better than what I was used to, so I am seeing fewer marks. It still needs cleaning like any toilet, but the time between deep cleans has stretched out a bit, and quick wipe downs are easier because there are fewer tight corners around the base. Clogging is always the big question. In my use so far, I have not had a real clog. I did have one moment early on where I used more paper than I should have, mostly to see what would happen, and it still went through. That said, plumbing is plumbing. If your drain line is already borderline, no toilet is going to fix that. What I can say is that this model has not added any new problems in my bathroom. Cleaning is honestly one of the strongest practical parts of living with it. The one-piece design means there is no seam between tank and bowl to trap grime, and the base shape is simpler to reach around compared to some toilets that have lots of curves and gaps. I can get most of the exterior wiped down in a couple of minutes. Under the seat is normal. The bowl is normal. The outside is easier than average. Now I want to address something from a reviewer perspective, because the script guidelines mention smart features and a mobile app. This toilet does not have an app. There is nothing to connect to your phone. There are no settings menus. And honestly, I am fine with that. For a toilet, I would rather have reliable flushing, easy cleaning, and parts that do not require troubleshooting. The closest thing to a feature you notice is the soft closing seat and the flushing action, and those are simple mechanical benefits you feel every day. There are a couple of limitations worth saying out loud. The one-piece body makes installation harder if you are doing it alone, and if you ever need to move it, it is not fun. Also, the glossy white finish looks great when it is clean, but it shows dust and hair faster than a matte surface would, so if your bathroom collects lint, you will notice it. The chair height is great for me, but it might not be ideal for every household without a small step stool for shorter users. And because it is a more sculpted design, if you have a very tight space, measure carefully so you do not end up with a fit issue behind the tank area or at the sides. Overall, my impression after living with it is that the Nexus feels like a well-made, straightforward toilet that focuses on the stuff you actually notice. It flushes consistently. It stays cleaner than the old one I replaced. It is comfortable to sit on, and it is easier to wipe down. It has not needed attention. It has not acted up, and it has not made me think about it much, which is kind of the point. You can view detailed information about the TOTO Nexus 1.28 gallons per flush one-piece elongated toilet in the comments section. Thank you for watching.